No CP+Reading+Upgrade Flow, Su Baiga, who has been struggling for many years in the apocalypse. Upon waking up, he unexpectedly walked into the world of cultivation through books. However, she dressed up as a useless person who couldn't cultivate without spiritual roots. Even if her powers didn't follow her, she was still a foolish cannon fodder who died at the beginning. The male and female leads rose to power by stepping on her cannon fodder, seizing the resources of the Su family, and rose all the way to become the dragon and phoenix among the people in the cultivation world. Su Bai said, "The end times are not for nothing, cannon fodder is impossible. Opportunities can be snatched away, the things sent by the parents of the unjust big head, come back. The male leads powerful magic weapon, hee, it belongs to me. Take the mustard space of the female lead number 1. I am responsible for inheriting the formation of the female lead number 2. There are also female lead 3, female lead 4. In short, the strong harem and helpers around the male protagonist, who are obedient and pleasing to the eye, have all been abducted, not leaving a single one behind." Keywords of the novel. Cultivation, starting from seizing the protagonist's opportunity without pop-ups. Cultivation, starting from seizing the protagonist's opportunity. Download the full text. Cultivation, starting from seizing the protagonist's opportunity. Latest chapter reading. Chapter 1. Clear-mindedness. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 1. Clear-mindedness. Su Dashan, your beautiful fiancé doesn't want you anymore. A young boy in his teens was holding a stone and throwing it at the girl who was squatting on the ground, with a muddy face and sarcastic words in his mouth. The girl named Su Dashan looked at the boy with a dull expression and said, "Second, brother, it hurts." "I don't hurt it. It hurts you, a big fool. Even Su Xiaobao, you deserve to be called by that name. Your parents don't want you anymore, and your brother has also entered the heavenly Xuanzong. Do you think they will come back?" Humph. Su Bai didn't understand what second brother meant. She just covered her smashed head in a daze and said in a trembling voice, "It hurts." Her tears streamed down, not sure if it was due to a headache or what Su Zijian had said. Su Zijian was a child from the second bedroom of the Su family and had always liked to bully Su Bai since childhood, because although she was a fool, her grandfather liked her very much. Su Zijian didn't know what he liked about this fool. His own sister was a heavenly pride, a rare Holy Spirit root, but it was better for this fool to please his grandfather. Thinking of this, Su Zijian didn't hesitate and walked over directly, kicking him fiercely towards the rockery behind him. "Damn fool, let you suffer enough, humph." Su Bai was kicked towards the rockery and hit her head directly, bleeding out and fainting. Su Zijian smiled sullenly and said to the servant beside him, "Go tell Grandpa that this fool accidentally fell off the rockery while playing, and his life or death is unknown." After speaking, the person left, leaving the servant helplessly looking at the small footprints on Su Bai's clothes. "As long as it's not a fool, you can tell that it wasn't you who fell off. If he goes to talk to the head of the house, he will be punished." With this thought in mind, the servant took off her outer jacket and stomped on the ground a few more times until the young master's footprints became indistinct. Then, he threw away her outer jacket and walked away. Su Bai, who was feeling confused, was hit and felt the mist in her mind slowly dissipating. As the mist dissipated a little, she became more alert. She knew that in her past life, she was called Yi Shiyu, and after 10 years of apocalyptic life, she thought she could welcome the arrival of dawn, but she didn't expect to die. After death, she entered a strange place surrounded by white mist, which gradually penetrated her mind like a lock, locking her behavior and everything. She knew her life was called Su Bai, and she knew how much her parents expected of her when she was born. This name is a combination of two surnames. She knew her brother was very kind to her, but everything ended when she was 5 years old. Her parents went to a secret realm and never returned, while her brother was sent to the heavenly Xuanzong by his grandfather due to his exceptional talent. "Although my grandfather loves me very much, I can't resist him. He is already old, his cultivation is stagnant, and his longevity is about to end. Now, he is basically a wealthy family, and his uncle is in charge of the family. When Su Bai slowly woke up, it was already dark, and the white mist that locked her mind did not disappear. Instead, it crawled into her stomach. But at least, she recovered and was not foolish anymore. In the last 10 years of the apocalypse, she had already abandoned everything that a person should have. She was a person who had kindness but never had to repay it, but if there was hatred, she would definitely make the other person return 100 times. Su Zijian. Su Bai's dirty little face smiled sinister, as if she were a small villain. Mississippi Miss, why are you here? I've been looking for you all day. Su Bai is now in her teens. Although she is foolish, she does not know nothing about the outside world. On the contrary, she can see and hear, but it is because of that damn white mist that her speech and behavior are completely uncontrollable, which leads everyone to think she is a fool. And the maid in front of her is also fooling around because she is a fool. If she could find herself for a day, there would be a ghost. Of course, it's not ruled out that her grandfather would look for her. Only in this way will this hypocritical maid look for her for a day. If she wakes up quickly, it's hard to guarantee that she won't be killed. She has to make sure privately that her abilities are not being talked about. Pain. Su Bai imitated her previous tone when speaking, feeling nauseous in her heart. If it weren't for saving her life, she would never have acted foolish. Qingyi looked at this fool and was speechless for a moment. How could she have made such a ghostly appearance? Later, Mr. Su will come to see her. Qingyi withdrew her contemptuous gaze, lifted her up with a gentle expression, and gently brushed away the soil from her body. Miss, you shouldn't be so playful. Look at how dirty you are. Why don't you go back with Qingyi? Su Bai obediently nodded and followed behind her, but her previous attention was breaking through the restrictions imposed by the white mist on her, and she had no time to think of anything else. But now looking at this beautiful and charming female maid, with her name added, there is always a very familiar feeling. Soaking in the bathtub, Su Bai looked at her left hand. She remembered when she was foolish, there was no mole on her palm. Why did it appear instead now? Anyway, let's give it a try. In the world of cultivating immortals, she is a useless person without spiritual roots. If she doesn't have any abilities yet, she really can only wait to die. She was an ice and fire dual superpower in her past life, but now, what's going on with the mist surging out of her fingertips? Has the ice been baked dry by the fire? Su Bai shook her head helplessly and let out a big sigh of anger. I didn't expect it. I'm not stupid, but I'm still a useless person with no spiritual roots or abilities. Miss, have you finished washing? I'm coming in. The old master has come to see you. Su Bai withdrew her hand and her round and large eyes stared absent-mindedly at Qingyi, who was about to enter, causing her to pause in her footsteps. How do you feel like today's lady doesn't look foolish? Qingyi murmured to herself, but then realized it was impossible. She smiled and walked in to help Su Bai dress up, leading her into the hall. In the evening, her grandfather came over with a 17 or 18-year-old boy who was pretty and handsome, but probably not from the Su family. Xiao Bao, come to Grandpa's place. Grandpa. Su Bai obediently called out to Grandpa, then walked towards him step by step, but suddenly covered the back of her head and said, "It hurts." Her back of the brain is already scarred, but there are still wounds. At night, Qingyi was already perfunctory to her, let alone checking if she was injured. Upon hearing his granddaughter cry out in pain, Mr. Su approached Su Bai with a heart-wrenching expression on his face, picked him up, and sat down on a stool nearby to examine the area she was holding. Seeing such a big wound, Mr. Su slammed the table fiercely and became furious. Is that how you take care of the young lady? You didn't notice such a big wound and didn't give the young lady any medication. End of this chapter. Chapter 2. was originally about reading books. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2 was originally about reading books. Upon seeing this, Qingyi's beautiful little face was full of grievances and she said, "Master, you also know that Miss is already fun. This is bumpy, Qingyi. How dare you argue? You are already Xiaobao's personal maid, taking good care of your master is what you should do. Mr. Su is extremely angry. He should find more considerate maids for Xiaobao, rather than just leaving one to serve him by his side. Grandpa Su, this is actually Miss Su's own problem. What's the relationship with Qingyi?" The young man saw his beloved being belittled and insulted, so he couldn't help but speak up for her. However, Mr. Su was already dissatisfied with this young man, and now he is even more angry when he actually helps a maid speak up. "Song Yunshu, do you still remember that you were Xiaobao's fiancé A.E.? This maidservant was so ungrateful, and you actually helped her speak." When Su Bai heard her grandfather call the young man Song Yunshu, she was completely dumbfounded. Song Yunshu. Qingyi. Su Bai. Isn't this a cultivation novel she read before the end of the world? The author is still her cousin Yi Yunshu. This can be considered her cousin's first novel, and we discussed it for a long time. Qingyi was the first woman in the harem of the male lead Song Yunshu. She can be considered a female lead who appeared earlier, and there are several more behind her. And Su Bai is the short-lived fiancé A.E. of the male lead. The book portrays Su Bai as a very malicious little fool who even wanted to poison the female protagonist Qingyi. Unexpectedly, the male protagonist discovered her and said that Su Bai was so malicious at a young age that she was not worthy of being his fiancé A.E. On the spot, he returned the engagement letter. The next day, the little fool was found dead on the edge of the rockery by someone who had fallen to death. As for whether it was true or not, who knows, it was just dead anyway. The little fool has died, and the poison in Qingyi cannot be relieved. The Su family leader said that such a malicious child cannot enter the Su family cemetery, but the Su family leader wants his precious granddaughter to enter. There was no other choice but to start with Qingyi. He agreed to Qingyi as long as he promised not to disclose this matter, and even she explained that it had nothing to do with his granddaughter. He was willing to take her as his son and make her a miss of the Su family, and then send her to study at the Tianxian sect. The female protagonist has good talent. Without the release of the Su family, she would not have been able to enter the Tianxian sect. After all, she is a domestic slave. Of course, with the female protagonist's White Lotus personality, she must have fully agreed and even said that there was no need for compensation. She felt that Su Bai was not intentional, it was just a child's playfulness. Her pretentious behavior greatly pleased the old man. After burying his granddaughter in the Su family cemetery, he treated Qingyi as his own granddaughter. Even good things are tight for her to use first. The male and female protagonists have been relying on the resources provided by Mr. Su to successfully build a foundation and advance to the Golden Elixir. After reaching the Golden Elixir cultivator, the Su family was of no use. They even teamed up with outsiders and let the Song family annex the Su family. From then on, the Su family officially went offline. In the later stage, I will be the big brother of the little fool, Su Yi. Su Yi is the closed-door disciple of the Tianxian sect leader, with top-notch cultivation resources. Since he found out that Qingyi is his younger sister, various resource opportunities have been presented to her. But later on, unexpectedly, she was pushed out by the female protagonist to block the sword, and the proud son of heaven died hastily like this. However, these are all the later words. Su Bai now only mourns for her own fate. Oh my goodness! Why don't you wear a cannon fodder for me? I can't even count as a passerby armor, can I? I died at the beginning. Xiao Bao. Grandpa Su was originally very angry, but when he saw his granddaughter's painful expression, he put everything aside. Hurry up and invite a doctor over. If anything happens to my little treasure, I'll take your life. Qingyi didn't understand why Mr. Su suddenly spoke ill of her. She reluctantly glanced at Song Yunshu, then picked up her skirt and ran towards the outside. She knew that she couldn't have a conflict with Mr. Su now, otherwise it would be even more impossible to leave the Su family. Today, the younger generation has seen it. I didn't expect the Su family to take human life so seriously. Even if it's just having a child, it's still a life. If you tell the old man about your life, there will be no fewer deaths in the hands of your Song family than the old man. What are you doing here? You can tell me now, and then leave. Originally, when Song Yunshu came, Mr. Su was very happy and thought that he could cultivate a relationship with Xiao Bao. After all, Xiao Bao was innocent and lovely, and as long as we got along, we would definitely like him. He said he had something to do with himself, and he would only say it in front of him and Xiao Bao. The old man thought it might not be a good thing, but he didn't think much. After all, he was just a teenager. Unexpectedly, he actually took out the marriage certificate and said, I feel that I am not worthy of the wealthy and influential Su family, so I came to withdraw my marriage. This is the marriage certificate, this is the compensation from the younger generation, and there is 100,000 spirit stones inside. Seeing what Song Yunshu proudly took out, Mr. Su was enraged and happy. 100,000 spirit stones. Do you know what your grandfather and parents took away from the Su family when they got engaged? 100,000 spirit stones are just for compensation, are you joking? You can withdraw from the marriage, keep the marriage certificate, and go back and tell Mr. Song that everything from that time is ready. The old man will personally go and retrieve everything. Song Yunshu frowned and said, Grandpa Su, you just need to return the marriage certificate when you break out. These 100,000 spirit stones are a compensation gift from the younger generation to Su Bai's younger sister. The younger generation had no knowledge of those things back then. Besides, those things were given to us by you. How could you still take them back? You are too concerned about them. Su Bai sat in Grandpa Su's arms, her eyes wide open as she looked at the shameless male lead, just like her shameless cousin. Although she has a good relationship with her cousin, she can't resist her cousin being really weird. Her cousin's quirky brain circuit doesn't matter to her as long as it's not against her, but when this quirky brain circuit is manipulated by herself, Su Bai becomes numb. She needs to think about how to survive now. My cousin said that the existence of this Su Bai is to provide resources for the male and female protagonists, and also to give the female protagonist a persona of, although not born well, don't deceive the poor youth. If this stepping stone and passers-by A, B, and C were not her, she wouldn't mind, but now she is the passers-by who doesn't know when to go offline. Withdrawal, marriage. This marriage must be abandoned, otherwise, with the dominant personality of the male and female leads, it may not be possible to really kill her. She now seriously suspects that there is an issue with her cousin's script. Grandpa Su looked at his obedient granddaughter in his arms with confusion. Didn't she always like Song Yunshu? He has always been said to be very good-looking and well-behaved. If it weren't for his granddaughter, he wouldn't have bothered to take a second look at this person. End of this chapter. Chapter 3. Uncle's Appearance. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3. Uncle's Appearance. If it weren't for his granddaughter liking him and talking to him like this, he would have kicked people out long ago. But now my granddaughter actually said she broke off, and her eyes were very bright. Grandpa Su looked at Su Bai happily, but saw her blink her eyes. Granddaughter, is this okay? Since Xiao Bao wants to withdraw from his marriage, he must do so. Put down the marriage letter, people, get lost. For someone Xiao Bao didn't like, Mr. Su didn't give him a good face, and at that moment, Qingyi, the girl, actually brought the boss. Father, how could you let Xiao Bao behave recklessly? Uncle Su was also very helpless. His father had a fondness for his third younger brother since he was young, and he also had a fondness for his foolish daughter. If it weren't for his constant involvement, the family would eventually break up. But now, his father is even shouting and killing against Gu Xiaobao's Qingyi, even in front of his fiancée A. Everything Uncle Su knew was guided by Qingyi, so he had no idea what happened. He only knew that Xiaobao had caused trouble again, and his father scolded Qingyi, who had been taking care of Xiaobao wholeheartedly. In fact, cursing a maid is not a big deal, but there is no need to curse in front of outsiders, otherwise it will not sound good and Su Xiaobao's reputation will not be good. He was already foolish. What should he do if he is bearing a bad reputation? Mr. Su also knew that his eldest son valued the face of the Su family the most, so he didn't explain. It wasn't just once or twice, but since Xiaobao wanted to do it, he would definitely give her a divorce. Boss, you're here at the right time. The Song family is about to divorce, and he has already brought the marriage certificate. Since he doesn't want to marry our little treasure, let them return as much as the Song family took from our Su family back then. Ah. Uncle Su is confused. Didn't the Song family come to ask for this marriage back then? After Su Xiaobao was born, he was found to be an ordinary person with no spiritual roots. His third brother and younger sister were worried about her, so they prepared many good things for her. His younger brother and daughter-in-law are all spiritual cultivators. Even he coveted the opportunities they could get, but he didn't expect them to be left for his daughter. It's not easy for him, who is the eldest brother, to say anything, but unexpectedly, at this moment, the Song family and his wife came to propose marriage, saying that they wanted the two families to marry Qin and Jean. At that time, my younger brother and sister-in-law originally disagreed, but the Song couple said that they were from the same family and the two families were close. Those who knew the root of the matter were better than marrying their daughter to someone else. If they felt that their daughter would not be doing well in the future, they could still take her back. It was these words that moved his younger brother and sister-in-law. After all, Song Yunshu also grew up with them and was a decent person, so he agreed to this marriage. But since the child is too young, they can only choose to marry a child. In order to show that both parties will not back out, they have already written the marriage agreement. At that time, they thought that since they had already written the marriage agreement, it was impossible for them to back out. Unexpectedly, it was discovered later that the child was naturally foolish, which was a bolt from the blue. The younger siblings were afraid that the Song family would divorce, so when they learned that the Song family needed the advanced golden pill of the heavenly spirit pill, they gave them the pill and even gave them many good things. Sure enough, even though the Song family knew that the Su family's little treasure was a fool, they did not mention the matter of getting married. From then on, the couple came to pick up things every now and then, and the name was given to Song Yunshu. It was said that as long as Song Yunshu had a high cultivation level, he could always protect Xiaobao in the future. He actually opposes this matter, but the things belong to the couple and the children belong to them as well. Although he is the eldest brother, his relationship is average, so he is too lazy to pay attention to them. But now, when I bring it back, it belongs to the Su family. He has been keeping accounts privately for years and just thinks it will be useful. As expected, since young Master Song looks down on our Su family, let's call it a day. Xiaobao's parents and siblings are not at home, so it's up to me and her grandfather to make the decision. Let's keep the marriage certificate. Come and see off the guests. Uncle Su works cleanly and efficiently, but Song Yunshu doesn't want to leave. Uncle Su, before the words could be finished, the guards had already walked over. Seeing that something was wrong, Qingyi quickly stepped forward with a slightly urgent tone, but still pretended to say, "Grandpa, no matter what, young Master Song is also a guest. It's been rumored like this." As soon as she finished speaking, Qingyi knew that Uncle Su loved face the most, so she wouldn't kick anyone out. She hadn't had a private meeting with her crush yet, so meeting him was not easy. Moreover, Song Yunshu was going to take her out this time. They haven't been able to discuss yet, how can they be kicked out? And it was these words that made Su Xianhua realize that this little girl was not simple. She was thinking about the Su family, but outside of her words, she was threatening him. Su Xianhua didn't expect that one day he would also have taken a wrong look. If it weren't for this sudden incident, he wouldn't have known that this little maid was hiding such thoughts. No wonder his father is going to deal with this maid, but he still disagrees with his father's statement. If he wants to deal with a family child, he just needs to handle it privately. Why put it on the table? Su Bai didn't know Uncle Su's thoughts, otherwise he would have jumped up and applauded. Uncle, you're so good. Su Xianhua originally had a smiling face, appearing very approachable. Now he has put away his previous anger, with a smile on his face, which makes people feel that he is easy to handle. Since that's the case, then take young Master Song to the guest room. Qingyi, you can arrange it. Yes, sir. Qingyi bowed with a smile on her face, then led Song Yunshu out of the hall. At this moment, Mr. Su snorted coldly, "Why did you leave this white-eyed wolf behind?" Song Yunshu waved his hand helplessly to let the guards down and patiently said, "Can't father see that these two people have some tricks? I still need you to say. Father, catching thieves and getting dirty, we can't say anything without evidence. What's there to say? They're not good to Xiao Bao." The Song family kicked him out, and the maid was beaten to death and thrown out. Su Bai looked at Mr. Su with bright eyes, feeling that this was a great move, and then swaggered to his house to move things. Bring back everything that was given to their family. Su Xianhua was also helpless towards Master Su's banditry, but when he was young, he liked to venture into secret realms and relied on his high strength to dominate in them. But now, after all, it's not the same as before. All major aristocratic families are controlled and constrained, and there is no one to manage them outside. If there is really a commotion, it will be difficult to deal with, especially the current city lord who has been thinking about their Su family for a long time. Father, I will take care of this matter. Don't worry, Xiaobao won't be wronged. I will also ensure that the things swallowed by the Song family are returned, and when the time comes, I will save them as a dowry for Xiaobao. Here, uncle. End of this chapter. Chapter 4. Auntie. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4. Auntie. After listening for a long time, Su Bai finally remembered that Uncle Su was a character in the book. If it weren't for his incompetent second brother and disobedient grandfather dragging his feet, Uncle Su could have killed the male and female leaders, and even become the lord of this city without a square. This uncle is a wilting person, with scheming, planning, and whatever he wants, but he just doesn't have the protagonist's aura. The most important thing is that this uncle is really a relatively normal person. Although he also wants opportunities, he never takes things from his family by chance, or even causes trouble outside of his uncle's family. Even if he is angry or unhappy, he will still help his family. Even Su Bai, a little fool, was able to grow up safely in the Su family because he was loved by his uncle and grandfather. I can't resist what's on Uncle Air's side and make people die. Having figured it out, Su Bai didn't say a word and directly said that she would give everything to Uncle. As long as Uncle accepted these things, she would be invincible in the Su family. After all, she doesn't have a spiritual root and can't cultivate. Instead of being snatched away by her second uncle and Su Zijian, it's better to use it as a favor. Su Xianhua didn't expect Su Bai to say this. Although he wasn't harsh on a child, he didn't pay too much attention. All he knew was that the child was a fool. Anyway, the miss of the Su family didn't have to worry about food and clothing, and if she couldn't get married and raise her at home, it would be okay. But it seems like she's okay. Grandpa Su knew at first glance that he couldn't hide it, and he also wanted to know what was going on with his granddaughter. Xiao Bao, are you really good? Su Bai nodded fiercely, but unfortunately, the white mist had been eroding her mind for too long, and her speech was still not smooth. Song, Yunshu, retire, get married, okay. After speaking the last two words, Su Bai's forehead was sweating, and Grandpa Su and Uncle Su were both shocked. They just withdrew from the marriage, and the person was fine. Who would believe it? Grandpa Su stared blankly at Grandpa Su and said, "Boss, can't this be true? Xiao Bao is indeed good, if not, it's just too coincidental." Really, Su Bai nodded heavily in order to help the male protagonist settle the matter, her eyes so bright that they didn't seem foolish. Uncle Su used to rarely see Su Bai, but Grandpa Su has seen so many of them. He knew right away that his granddaughter had recovered and immediately said, "Surprisingly, this Song Yunshu has taken control of Xiao Bao. Don't let him in from now on. Boss, you should quickly handle the matter of getting married. As Xiao Bao said, I'll give you as much as I get back. Okay, I'll keep the things and replace them with spirit stones for Xiao Bao. They will be stored in Tianlu's silver village, which only recognizes people. Therefore, only Xiao Bao can use them. Don't be afraid, Xiao Bao. Uncle will definitely clean up this disaster for you. Also, yes, Qingyi, both of us, bully me." After Su Bai finished speaking, she lifted her arm and showed them a black, faintly visible vine in her hand. "Is this, Chilua slow?" Uncle Su was stunned. "Is this highly toxic? How could Xiao Bao be infected with such a highly toxic substance?" This is also something that Su Bai hesitated for a long time whether to say or not. Qingyi poisoned her to control her, and her reaction became increasingly slow and dependent on Qingyi because of this poison. Only by her side can it alleviate a bit. In the novel, Qingyi was also poisoned by this kind of poison. It can be imagined how ruthless they were in order to withdraw from their marriage and protect the Su family's money tree. She now feels more and more that this is not quite like the plot that her cousin, that silly young man, can write. It's too vicious. As her mind became clearer and she remembered more things, Su Bai became even more afraid. She found the male and female protagonists so satisfying while reading books, and now she feels so scared. Grandpa Su was stunned when he saw Chi Luo Man, and immediately wanted to go out and kill those two sluts, but he was tightly hugged by Grandpa Su and Su Bai. "Father, don't be impulsive. What's important now is to find a doctor for Xiao Bao to see how to treat him. I'll handle those two people." "Aha, Grandpa. Oh my granddaughter has really suffered. From today on, you can stop living in this yard and move in with your grandfather. I see, in my yard, no one dares to bully you. Boss, tomorrow I will see the body of that little slut. The Song family cannot kill or let go." "Okay, I know." Su Xianhua didn't know that Xiao Bao could still be poisoned in his own home, and it seemed that time was definitely indispensable. This Qingyi was indeed a white-eyed wolf. As he watched Grandpa Su and Su Bai leave, Grandpa Su's smiling face gradually darkened. When his wife came to find him, what he saw was Grandpa Su's gloomy appearance, which made him curious. "What's wrong? What did the old man spoil Xiao Bao again?" This Qingyi reports on Xiao Bao's daily life every day, saying that Xiao Bao has been spoiled into something. The couple is also very helpless. After all, they are not their own children, and it is not easy for them to interfere too much. But unexpectedly, Qingyi ran to their yard just now and said that it was the prince who wanted to kill her. This is really amazing. Qingyi shouted for help all the way, and now everyone in the mansion knows that the old master wants to kill a maid for a foolish young lady. This old man is the same. If you want to kill him, you can kill him. How could you still say it? Now, everyone knows. She also saw her own master not coming back for a long time, afraid that the father and son would argue again. Of course, the old man could only curse unilaterally, so she came to save the scene. Unexpectedly, she saw the old man with a gloomy face. Uncle Su looked at his wife and recounted everything that had just happened. Nangong Xiao was stunned and said, "Are you really crying so slowly? As I have seen with my own eyes, this maid cannot be left behind. This maidservant is the daughter of Aaron, and you also know her." Before Nangong Xiao could finish speaking, Su Xianhua interrupted, this is not the reason why she hurt Xiaobao, and besides, she is not clear with Song Yunshu. Alright, since you want to do it, let me handle it. You go prepare the gift list first, and then rest well for the night. Tomorrow morning, you can bring Song Yunshu to your door and retrieve what belongs to our Su family. Okay, thank you very much, madam. You don't need to be polite between us. There are no other participants between Su Xianhua and Nan Gongxiao, so their relationship has always been harmonious, which is completely different from the chaotic private life of the second wife. This aunt is not just a simple character. After Su Xianhua left, Nan Gongxiao called her maid and said, Inghe, go prepare some enchanting incense. It's madam. Inghe received the command and walked out directly. Nan Gongxiao didn't care if these two had any personal matters, but after tonight, there must be none. As soon as the male and female leads enter the room, they start various hot scenes, as if eager to blend into each other's bodies. After finishing a busy scene, they lie in bed. Qingyi asked, Yunshu, have you come up with a way to take me away? Don't worry. Tomorrow, I will tell the head of the Song family about this matter. Being able to enter the heavenly Xuanzong is a big deal, and they cannot hinder people's future. End of this chapter. Chapter 5. Exhalation. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5 Exhalation. At this moment, Nan Gongxiao and Inghe, who were already standing outside the door, listened to the calculations inside and felt that just using the enchanting fragrance was too childish. Since both of them had already gotten together, the enchanting fragrance could be saved. After Nan Gongxiao leaned into Inghe's ear and said something, Inghe left. Nan Gongxiao, on the other hand, lowered the photo taking water through the crack in the door, not only recording their conversation, but also recording the entire process of their movements, in high-definition format. Nan Gongxiao Jiang was about to leave when he heard these two people discussing how to occupy the magpie's nest. She was all shocked. It turns out that all the images of Xiaobao in the past were created by this maid. She even poisoned Xiaobao, making her unable to do without her. Then, she prepared to pass the poison on herself and frame Xiaobao. After the human body's sobbing, the poison had disappeared. However, it will grow a weeping vine, which is the top-ranked poisonous plant. This Qingyi fruit is really ruthless, but it provides her with a way to detoxify. Come on, Miss Su Bai is missing. Everyone, hurry up and find her. Inghe shouted with heart-wrenching agony, as if Su Bai had really disappeared. There was such a big commotion, and Su Zijian certainly knew it. But he thought it was his servant who didn't do a good job, but it was okay. Even if Su Dat died of foolishness, people wouldn't suspect him. At this moment, someone in the crowd suddenly said, Miss, will you go find Sister Qingyi? She can't do without Sister Qingyi the most. Yeah, let's go find Sister Qingyi. A group of people walked towards Qingyi's room in a daze, but the two people in the room had already started lively physical activity again. How could they be distracted? When the door was opened, both the inside and outside people froze. On the bed are Sister Qingyi and young Master Song, right? Ah! Seeing a group of people surrounding her and Song Yunshu, Qingyi screamed out loud. Song Yunshu pulled the blanket over them and lowered her face. Hurry up and get out. Seeing his frown and displeasure, Su Zijian, who had only come to join the fun, mocked and said, Oh, you thought this was your Song family. Even the thieves stole from our Su family. She's still a maid. With a fiancé like you, Su Xiaobao is really pitiful. Why don't you hurry and find the eldest lady? Su Zijian is not uncommon for his mother to handle such problems. In short, this beautiful little maid will die. However, it has nothing to do with him. As long as Su De is not doing well, he will be happy. As soon as he saw a servant running away, he walked in and sat upright on a stool, staring at the people on the bed without giving them a chance to dress. And this young master is truly worthy of being a troublemaker. He directly took out a photo stone and came to a live broadcast. Hey, everyone, take a look. The woman on the bed is our third young lady, Su Bai, and Su Xiaobao's personal maid. She is a born child and her parents are both demon servants. Do you know what demon servants are? They are the kind rescued from the demon cave. Everyone knows what they know, so I won't go into more detail. Pour a cup of tea for the young master. Speaking of being thirsty, Su Zijian even asked his servant to pour him tea and clear his throat. Qingyi didn't expect her background to be revealed like this, her whole being in tears of grievance, holding on to Song Yunshu and sobbing silently. After understanding this scene, Song Yunshu couldn't help but roar at Su Zijian, "You're talking nonsense, Su Zijian. You'd better shut up right away. If you tell me to shut up, I'll just shut up. Who are you?" Su Zijian is not afraid of causing trouble. He even beats and scolds his grandfather's beloved treasure, Su Xiaobao, and is afraid of an outsider. He's joking. Look at this person who has become angry and embarrassed. Oh, by the way, I haven't introduced him yet. This is the owner of the demon servant's son, who is the famous fiancé of Su Dashan in our Su family. Ha ha ha. As he spoke, he laughed on his own. This Su Dashan is really pitiful. The maid was left by her parents. The reason is that her mother is grateful. She knew that the Su family saved their family and gave them a place to settle down. So, while following her out for training, she took the initiative to save the master and died. So Su Dashan's parents felt sorry for him, so they took good care of his daughter and entrusted their own silly daughter to the care of the white-eyed wolf. But to their surprise, the white-eyed wolf took care of her young lady's fiancé's bed. TSK, if her parents knew they had given birth to a white-eyed wolf and bullied their master's daughter, would they get up in the middle of the night and take her life? After all, that was the master they were willing to save. Su Zijian felt very happy to say these things. It not only showed how foolish his 3 uncles and 3 aunts were, but also showcased the kindness of their Su family, and even tricked Song Yunshu to death. The person he hates the most is Song Yunshu. In front of Song Yunshu, Su Xiaobao can only rank behind, and Su Xiaobao is also a member of their Su family. He can fight, curse, and kill, but outsiders cannot. Otherwise, wouldn't it be very embarrassing? Xiao Wu. Nangong Xiao slowly appeared after Su Zijian had finished speaking about everything. She had to find a reason to record it and send it out, but now Su Zijian has also recorded it, even bringing his own commentary. There are so many people watching together, which is much better than her. Auntie, you're here at the right time. What do you think should be done with these 2 adulterers and prostitutes? Someone, take Qingyi down. Madam, please don't do it, madam. Please spare Qingyi. Qingyi knows the Grand Madam's methods, but she dare not leave with her. Madam Su, this is my fault. I will marry Qingyi. Don't worry. Nangong Xiao was startled by the male lead's action for a while. Just as he was about to speak, he was intercepted by Su Zijian. Just kidding, this is our Su family's biological child. If she makes a mistake, she will be dealt with according to family rules. If you say you want to marry, then marry. You can't think that this Wufang city is something your family has set up. The rules in the city prohibit the killing of slaves. Song Yunshu argued with reason, but at this moment she found out that her son was coming to watch the commotion, and the second wife, who was afraid of causing trouble, also came. Upon hearing this, she couldn't help but laugh. Young Master Song has such great authority. The lord of the city only said that it is not allowed to kill slaves without reason, but why did he take it out of context when he came to you? You still want to replace the Lord in issuing laws and orders. Besides, this slut in your arms is actually colluding with your own master's fiancée, and you fell out of grace before marriage. Even if you want to marry, our Su family has the right to directly deal with such an impolite and harmful servant who harms the Su family's customs. Mrs. Su, the maid, spoke the two words with extra emphasis. Even after she finished speaking, the eldest lady directly asked someone to drag Qingyi out. Song Yunshu wanted to stop him, but his cultivation level was only 7 levels of qi cultivation, which was worth the protection of the golden elixir. End of this chapter. Chapter 6. Virus Strains. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6. Virus Strains. The female protagonist had already been extinguished, but Su Bai felt something reviving inside her body. She lay in bed, watching the vines on her arms slowly extend downwards. She thought it was a demonic venom, but to her surprise, it was the poisonous vines growing from her fingertips. Su Bai, who was not familiar with this matter, decisively sought help from his elders. Grandpa, 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 me, I've become a monster. Su Bai pretended to be panicked and ran towards her grandfather's study, while Su Xianhua and Nangong Xiao were both present. They were watching the video recorded by Nangong Xiao. Although the live action was a bit indecent, they didn't care about it. What they focused on was their conversation. It wasn't until I heard Su Bai shouting loudly that I quickly put away my things. After all, that scene was really eye-catching. Xiao Bao, what's wrong? Nangong Xiao, who had just learned everything, now has an extremely good filter effect on Xiao Bao. If it weren't for their mistaken belief in Qingyi, he wouldn't have let this young child suffer all of this. Su Bai reached out her hand, and everyone was surprised to see the tender buds on her hand, especially Nan Gongxiao, who is a spiritual plant master and knows a little about them. Seeing his wife actually smile, Su Xianhua curiously asked, "Why is Madam smiling?" "Yeah, big wife, what's wrong with this little treasure?" "Big, Auntie." "Xiao Bao, this is really a blessing in disguise. This is the ghost man Luo, a mutated strain of the weeping Luo man virus. It should have been raised by the girl Qingyi with your body. But now that the host has died, it needs to find a host for itself. It happens to be in your body, so it treats you as a host. In the future, Xiao Bao can follow the path of a poison master, which is also a way out." They were originally worried about what Su Bai would do in the future, although the Su family could take care of her. After all, human words are frightening, and she cannot stay indoors for the rest of her life. Now, Su Bai has a way out. She really didn't expect Qingyi to be so vicious and use Xiao Bao to raise a strain of poison. If she hadn't dealt with Qingyi first, if given a chance, Xiao Bao would have died. After Nangong Xiao finished speaking, although Su Xianhua was a bit angry, he did not realize that this evil servant had treated his younger brother's daughter like this. But there was also some relief. Although the poison master had a difficult journey, he was much better than ordinary people. At least he could practice and protect himself. Otherwise, he really wouldn't have the face to see his younger brother. Su Bai, who originally thought she had no hope for cultivation and could only become a rice worm, was shocked to find such a solution after listening to her aunt's words. Before she could express her opinion, her grandfather became afraid. "Boss's wife, this is highly toxic. Is there a way to remove it?" "Grandpa, I want to learn, but I don't want to. Also, being poisoned, it hurts so much." As Su Bai spoke, she also shed a few tears. If people don't fight for themselves, heaven and earth will perish. She has no interest in testing human nature, as it cannot withstand the test the most. You have to have your own strength to do it. A poison master is a poison master. Hey, since that's the case, then let's learn. Thank you, Grandpa. Nangong Xiao was also happy for Su Bai, but since he wanted to follow the path of poison master, he still had to go to a formal place to learn. Since my father also agrees, let's do it this way. Tomorrow, after I go and retrieve everything that belongs to Xiao Bao, we will buy him a spot as an inner disciple of the Heavenly Spirit sect. This way, Xiao Bao can be sent to study in the sect. The poison sect of the Heavenly Spirit sect is unique on this day, but the fee is very high. However, with this spirit stone, we are not afraid that we cannot afford it. Okay, let's leave it to your husband and wife. Well, father, Xiaobao, please rest well first. I will personally come to your door tomorrow, don't worry. Thank you, uncle. Xiaobao, be good, father. Ah Xiao and I have gone back first. Let's go, let's go. The couple left hand in hand, while Grandpa Su looked at his granddaughter and said, Xiaobao, the poison master is not easy to learn. I will work hard. Su Bai was afraid that Mr. Su wouldn't let her go, so she quickly raised her small hand, clenched her fist, and spoke firmly. This childish gesture amused Mr. Su, who picked up Su Bai and said, since Xiaobao wants to go, Grandpa can help you prepare more spirit stones. Poison masters are very expensive. With the support of Mr. Su, Su Bai won't worry anymore. Her grandfather is very kind to her and she doesn't want to suddenly disappear to make her grandfather worried. She had originally planned to study at the Heavenly Spirit sect on her own, or secretly learn, but since she could go openly, she was too lazy to give up the support of her family. She was sent back to her room again, and this time she looked at the poisonous plant in her hand, how she liked it. She didn't react before, but now it seems that this is the secret weapon of the female protagonist Qingyi, the secret treasure in the novel that she can kill invisibly. The female protagonist is also a poison master. She used to wonder why she learned poison with such great talent. Now she has figured it out. It turned out that it was because she had long planned to become a poison master and even used Su Bai to cultivate poison plants. It's really heartless and ruthless. This must not be the plot that her silly and sweet cousin came up with, is the plot off-center? Or is it that she's not wearing something written by her cousin, but rather a spin-off? Forget it, don't worry about him. Anyway, now that the female lead has the opportunity, she has the secret weapon to use. Don't waste it. By the way, since we can grab one, as long as I seize all the opportunities of the protagonists, wouldn't it be invincible? They don't have the chance, so they can fix a fart. Su Bai was so excited that she jumped up, with a strong sense of turning over and making decisions. Suddenly, she moved her body in confusion. Is this okay with me? Stop stuttering and don't feel uncomfortable anymore. Master, it's my fault. I ate all the poison in your body. The little poisonous strain shook its head as it looked at Su Bai, who looked at the little poisonous plant in confusion and said, Can you speak? She hasn't seen any woody beings in the apocalypse, but she hasn't heard of any plants that can speak. Stupid, I'm a ghost vine, a spirit beast, not a plant, of course I can talk. Guiman is a poisonous plant that is cultivated using the slow growth of Qiluo, and it is also a companion beast belonging to the spirit. So, am I doing this because I have the poison of Qi Luo Man in my body? Aha, I wasn't inside your body originally. It was when you were born that you took me away. That white mist. Guiman nodded and shook his head again, not knowing what it was trying to express. Su Bai didn't bother to pay attention to it and just asked. So why did you get into my stomach? Guiman reluctantly replied, I used to sleep well, but suddenly it was so hot that I had to run to a cold place to stay. It doesn't know what's going on either. It was originally planted on by Suyu, by Qingyi's mother. What died for her was just because she was afraid that the ghost vine would fall into the hands of others. This was what she planted for her daughter. Only a powerful host like Bai Suyu can grow powerful ghost vines. However, now they are all cheap Su Bai. End of this chapter. Chapter 7. Getting Things. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7. Getting Things. In the original book, she was taken out of the ghost vine and died, but Su Zijian did not follow the script and kicked her to death in advance. In the original book, she was poisoned to death, her internal organs were all empty, and she died without a drop of blood, and now, it seems like she just started to slowly wake up after bleeding from her head. Su Bai touched her head with her hand and cruelly pulled out a little blood from the bandaged wound. Sure enough, the ghost vine retreated as soon as she saw it. It's so hot, so hot. Hurry up and take it away, Xiaoman is going to die, indeed, it's blood. Are you afraid of my blood? Gui Man turned his head to look at Su Bai and said, it seems like it's red, very hot, very hot. Is it a blood problem? I don't know, Gui Man shook his head in ignorance and lay down with Su Bai. He even pleasantly rubbed her finger and said, Master, I have already recognized the master. Don't scare me with this thing, okay? Gui Man coquettishly wrapped the vines around Su Bai's fingers, shook them, but Su Bai smiled and said, as long as you don't betray the Lord, of course I won't do anything to you. If you betray me, I will burn you to death. They don't know how to do it, speak well. This coquettish and pretentious tone made her think of Qingyi as soon as she heard it. She didn't want to hear this tone, and Gui Man knew she didn't like it, so she said in a normal Taiyin, The next morning, Su Xianhua took the things recorded by Su Zijian and twisted Song Yunshu directly to the Song family. As soon as they entered the door, the Song couple saw their precious son being twisted in their hands and quickly walked forward, saying, I don't know what the child did to make the Su family head treat my son like this. Although Su Xianhua spoke with a strange tone, he clearly didn't want to pay attention to them. Instead, he said to the newly arrived head of the Song family, Mr. Song, if the Song family wants to repent, just come to their door and say it directly. Our Su family is not a shameless person, but young Master Song's actions are a bit unreasonable. After speaking, the photo stone was crushed on the spot, and the scene of Su Zijian's live commentary applauding for love instantly appeared in the hall. Song Yunshu did not expect the head of the Su family to do so, and said angrily, the people of the Su family are simply deceiving others too much. Mr. Song saw something on the photo stone and heard his grandson say this. He slapped it directly and said, how dare you say something shameful? Isn't this something you did? If Song Yunshu could understand the meaning behind Mr. Song's words and directly refute it on the spot, it was not him who did it, but the Su family deliberately framed it. He could also use Zhou Xian's words to prove the false impression of the Su family bullying people, but this is the male lead. Grandpa, Ear and I truly love each other. I want to marry Ear. Song Yunshu's words were resounding, and his parents were all shocked. How could this child not see the situation clearly? Song Yunshu's mother received his father's gaze and quickly approached, saying, Oh, Uncle Su, this child is playing around. Don't worry, we only recognize Xiao Bao as our daughter. Law. Mother. Song Yunshu couldn't believe that this was what his mother said. Didn't she say before that she would help him marry Qingyi? At this moment, Su Xianhua shattered her fantasies and said, Child. Then you child is very independent. He has already come to return the marriage certificate, and our Su family has also taken it. Today, when I come to your house, besides bringing your son, I have also brought with me the list of resources that your Song family has obtained from my younger brother over the years. I will be waiting here today. If I don't see anything on the list by noon, I will let young Master Song know about this matter throughout the city. If the city lord knows that young Master Song is acting like this at a young age, what would he think of the Song family's style? When Su Xianhua said these words, his gaze lightly slid over the head of the Song family. He was clearly taken aback and immediately said, Xianhua, let's just pass it. Those were all back then. Those were all left by my younger brothers and sisters for Xiaobao's fiancé AE, and you used them in advance. But now that such an ugly incident has occurred, I will never marry our Miss Su into your Song family and suffer humiliation. The head of the Song family doesn't need to say much. I will see things today, otherwise, don't blame me. At first glance, the head of the Song family knew that this matter could not be resolved. The Su family still relies on the heavenly Xuanzong in Baimu City, so it's not easy to offend them. Otherwise, even the lord of the city cannot protect his Song family. If Song Yunshu had just followed his own words and refused to admit it, there was still room for maneuver. If it didn't work out, all he had to do was bite and kill the maid. After all, if someone marries, they will have to live or die, rather than let them control it. I didn't expect this usually clever grandson to be so unreliable today. Father, this thing can't be given, it's all ours now. Why give it to them? You can't say that, after all, this matter is indeed the fault of Yun Shu's nephew. It's not inappropriate for Su family leader to make such a request. After all, everyone knows that Miss Su Jiu is a foolish person. These magical tools and pills are all for her husband. Second brother, you can't take advantage of their strengths and still be so disgusting to their precious daughter. The speaker was the third son of the Song family. Seeing him come out to speak, the eldest son didn't give up. Anyway, these things were all swallowed by these two people, and they didn't get any share. It's better not to ask anyone for them. Yes, father. This matter is not authentic for my younger brother's family. If this image of the shadow stone is spread, how can our Song family establish themselves in Wufang City in the future? Even the city lord may have criticism towards us. Who doesn't know, the lord of Wufang City likes to paint a peaceful and friendly appearance the most. If this image leaks out, the lord will be the first to attack their Song family. The Song family leader dare not gamble on this matter, after all, the city lord has not fully accepted them. Since that's the case, boss, third, you guys go help the second to tidy up. Since we have broken off, let's return the things to them. Father. Do you want to return the things or get out of here? Old Master Song was already very unhappy when he was called out from the gentle countryside early in the morning, and even encountered such a troublesome thing. You can say that you should do it more discreetly, but someone caught him and even took him and recorded the video. If it weren't for the fear of having a bad impression in front of the Lord and affecting future cooperation, he would definitely not back down on these things. But now, if he doesn't retreat, it's not possible. If he's a few days late and the city lord takes the Song family under his name, even if he kills Su Xianhua, he can still help the city lord deal with the aftermath, but not now. The old man Song became angry at first sight, and Song Heir and his wife dared not say anything more. Meanwhile, Song Yunshu had already been blinded by his grandfather, and this was the first time he had been beaten by his grandfather. After tidying up, things were packed and moved away in boxes, showing off the market. Someone asked why we need to move things. The servants of the Su family are not hiding it, they directly handed the shadow stone to others, and the main idea is that everyone knows it. Not long after, it was known outside the city that the young master of the Song family and his fiancée A's maid had gotten together. These two, one rose to the 7th level of Qi cultivation relying on the resources of future father.in.law and mother.in.law, and the other, whose parents were both demon servants, were saved by Miss Su's parents and gave them a home to settle down and have children. These two white-eyed wolves, seeing that Miss Su Jiu was foolish and her parents were not around, actually managed to get together and even wanted to seek wealth and harm their lives. In short, the more rumors spread, the more mysterious it became. As a result, Song Yunshu had no face to continue staying at the Song family and was directly sent back to Emperor Xuanzong by his parents. End of this chapter. Chapter 8. Su Zijian. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8. Su Zijian. Uncle Su brought things back to the Su family with great momentum, and Su Zijian had just returned from outside. No one knew what he had done, but he was a bit dazed as he watched Uncle bring things back. Uncle, have you brought everything back? Yeah, thanks to your shadow stone, Zijian. Don't be too playful in the future. Follow the schoolmaster to practice well, you know. Previously, Su Xianhua never participated in the education of other younger brothers, but now he feels that it's not enough to ignore it. The Song family is clearly having problems, and the newly appointed city lord is also coming with great force. The Su family is afraid of being attacked from both sides. If the Su family cannot advance and retreat together, then don't blame him as a big brother for cutting off his tail and surviving. Su Zijian was originally a thorn in the head, and Su Xianhua also thought that he was too lazy to pay attention to himself, but to his surprise, he secretly pulled himself aside and asked in a low voice. "Uncle, have you dealt with that girl Qingyi yet?" Although he killed the person, it's not easy to say too much in front of the child. He gently caressed Su Zijian's head with his broad hand and said, "Don't ask so many questions about the child, practice well, and in the future, don't always trouble Xiao Bao. She won't be foolish after getting divorced. You should take care of your sister more. Is Su De foolish or not?" Su Zijian exclaimed in surprise, but was knocked on the head by Su Xianhua in a bad mood. "Why call your sister? You go call your parents over. Xiaobao's things," she said, "are all for the Su family. Come and see what you need." After speaking, he walked into the house, leaving only Su Zijian in chaos in the wind. Did Su Dashan die? He's not stupid either. Ah. I know. Su Zijian seemed foolish for a moment, running happily towards his own yard. No one knows, he had a terrible nightmare recently. In the dream, the entire Su family was spared, except for the shameless Su Golu and Su Yi. In the dream, all the troubles of the Su family came from Su Bai's death, so he was so irritable at the time. He thought at that time, anyway, Su Dashan would also die. Instead of dying in someone else's hands and earning a reputation as a vicious fool, it would be better for him, the second brother, to take action and get a whole body. Unexpectedly, by chance, Su Dashan didn't die, but instead came to his senses. Does that mean that as long as he listens to his uncle's words honestly and advises his parents well, their family can survive? With this thought in mind, he rushed all the way to his own yard and just heard his parents discussing joining the new city lord. "Dad, I don't agree." Su Zijian rushed in panting heavily, shouting loudly. Unexpectedly, his mother slapped him directly on the head and said, "What's it called? I'm afraid others won't know." His mother, Yu Mengxian, gave him a disdainful glance and quickly closed the door. His father, Su Yanfeng, glared at him and Lao Shen sat down in a chair. "What else can we do if you don't agree? The Su family doesn't have our status, so it's better to find another way out instead of just playing around with your uncle. Su Yanfeng has a very good idea. As long as he shows his intention to stand on the side of the city lord and supports himself to become the head of the Su family, then his benefits will definitely be indispensable. Besides, it must be better for him to become the head of the family than his elder brother, at least not to let outsiders bully their Su family." Unexpectedly, Su Zijian pulled them and whispered, "Mom and Dad, let me tell you, Uncle's strength is high, and our cultivation is so low. If something happens, we won't be able to withstand it. Dad, what do you think, if you become the head of the family, won't Uncle be indifferent? Auntie is the most beloved daughter of the Lord of Baimu City." Back then, the Lord of Baimu City wanted to win over Uncle, but he couldn't bear to part with the Su family. That's why he didn't go. If you become the head of the family, although the Lord may cover you up, what about other families? Su Zijian's words received strong agreement from his mother. "Xianggong, Zijian's words make sense. Well, my mother also thinks it makes sense. Dad, when do you think about it again? Although Uncle has restricted your use of spirit stones now, when has he ever demanded that you purchase cultivation items such as magical tools and treasures?" This Su Yanfeng wanted to refute, but after thinking for a while, he couldn't come up with any points to refute. His elder brother did manage his family very well. Although controlling the use of spirit stones, as long as it is something necessary for cultivation, he doesn't need to say it's all in his own hands. Well, you can't think of anything that Uncle didn't do well, can you? I mean, you were brainwashed by that dead girl from Qingyi. Mom, you also saw that dead girl actually mixed up with Su Dashan and Song Yunshu behind her back. It's not a good thing, you still believe what she said. If I hadn't come to hear what you said, you would still want to live a life of lying down and practicing in the future. Dream, Mom and Dad. Su Yanfeng and Yu Mengxian were both shocked in each other's eyes. Why did their son suddenly become so smart? Then he heard him say, Uncle helped Su Dashan bring back all the things that his uncles and aunts gave to the Song family before. Now let's go choose the right things. Dad, if it were you, could you bring back so many good things? This may not work. Su Zijian nodded. With his father's weak cultivation, you are the only one who has ghosts. Xianggong, let's remove the possibility. It is absolutely impossible. The Song family has the presence of the refining ancestor, and the current head of the Song family is also a spiritual cultivator. It is impossible to be afraid of her husband, the golden core cultivator. Don't be ashamed. Being told by his own wife, Su Yanfeng also felt that he had been praised too harshly before, blaming that dead girl. He said that the head of the family doesn't care about strength, doesn't care about ghosts. If his elder brother really leaves the stall, then he is not just a fish and meat on the board, being slaughtered by others. Although the Su family also has an ancestor of refining Su, he has always been in seclusion. If his son hadn't been slapped in the face, he would have been the eternal culprit of the Su family. Su Yanfeng couldn't help but sweat a cold sweat, and his gaze towards his son changed. Son, why are you suddenly so smart? His thick hands kept touching Su Zijian's head, his face full of disbelief, and Yu Mengxian was the same. The two of them kept leaning together to look at his head. This made Su Zijian roast weakly. Fortunately, his parents listened to him. Otherwise, it would be worse than his brain. It would really kill people. Let's go, Mom and Dad. Let's go see what good things Uncle and Aunt Song, who are foolish and have a lot of money, have given to the Song family. Speaking of this, Su Zijian thought weakly. Did Uncle take away the brains of his father and third uncle when he was born? Otherwise, how could Uncle be so smart and his father and third uncle be so foolish? Forget it, don't think about it anymore, just be foolish. If you listen in the future, you won't die so fast. He really can't wait to see those treasures now. In his dream, the Song family rose to fame through these things, and Song Yunshu and Qingyi also successfully advanced to become foundation-building cultivators because of these things. I wonder if he can do it. End of this chapter. Chapter 9. Division of East and West. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9. Division of East and West. Su Bai sat next to Grandpa Su, looking at boxes of treasures. Her eyes were really hot, but who made her a useless material? Looking at Su Bai's drooling eyes, Nangong Xiao sat beside her, placing his hand on his lips and gently smiling. Xiao Bao, don't open such a big mouth. Little sister, your saliva is about to drop. A young boy with red lips and white teeth next to Nangong Xiao giggled and spoke clearly for her mother. Su Bai didn't even look at them and instinctively wiped his mouth with his hand, continuing to stare at the treasures. Su Xianhua heard the sound from this side and turned to see Su Bai's drooling expression, which was quite helpless. Before he could even speak, Nangong Xiao stood up with a smile and walked over to Su Xianhua, saying, Husband, since Xiao Bao can also practice, she's planning to go to the Heavenly Spirit sect. Why don't she also choose a few things? Tianling sect. Just as Su Zijian was about to step into the door, his feet stopped and he couldn't believe it. He shouted loudly. Although Su Xianhua was a bit unhappy with his lack of rules, he always remembered his wife's words and advised other children not to teach him recklessly. Just a gentle reprimand. Zijian. Uncle, no, you wait. Su Zijian stared fixedly at Su Bai not far away, his eyes becoming increasingly strange, and finally couldn't help but tap his head. Su Zijian. What's going on here? Su Bai also saw his strange appearance and felt something was wrong, as if he knew something. She quickly jumped off the chair and ran to Su Zijian, as if to confirm whether he knew the plot and whether he was an interloper with her. But this guy really seems to be just curious about why he can cultivate. Su Zijian regained his senses and saw that Su Bai was so close to him. He angrily pushed her away and said, "Why are you so close to me, you idiot? You're looking for death." Su Bai originally thought she was okay, but as soon as she heard him say this, she stopped doing it. She quickly flipped over a few times and covered her buttocks with slightly red eyes. She pointed at him and said, "Uncle, your buttocks hurt, don't give it to him. Beat her and still want her resources, beautiful." After learning that she had suffered so much, Nangong Xiao looked at her like he was looking at his own daughter and quickly ran over. "Xiao Bao, if Auntie helps you need it, it won't hurt anymore. Don't cry, don't cry." Looking at the little person with red lips, white teeth, and tender white eyes, Nangong Xiao felt a bit uncomfortable, while Su Bai quickly threw herself into her arms and twitched her shoulders. "Auntie, Auntie, it smells so good." Su Bai tightly hugged her, burying her head on her chest, and vigorously smelling the fragrance emanating from her body. Su Xianhua and Nan Gongxiao didn't know that Su Bai was holding back her laughter, and thought she was really being thrown hard and crying. "Since Xiaobao said that, then don't take Xiaobao's things, Zijian." Su Zijian also knew that he had been reckless just now, but as soon as he saw this fool, he couldn't calm down. He pretended not to care and said, "If you don't want it, don't do it. Who cares, but my parents didn't touch her. Uncle, you can't help but give it to my parents. Anyway, he will live longer than his parents, so give it to them." As for Su Dashan, not only did she survive, but she also didn't care about her cultivation. Anyway, she will eventually die. Humph, for the sake of her resources, he showed great kindness and will help her curse and scold that ruthless Su Yi and Su Golo more in the future. When he thought of Su Yi, the hatred and killing intent in his eyes couldn't be hidden, and everyone present, except for the younger ones, had cultivation above him, so they could naturally feel it. They just thought this killing intent was aimed at Su Bai, but upon closer inspection, it didn't seem like it, so they felt relieved. Although Su Bai currently has no cultivation, she has been struggling in the post-apocalyptic world for so many years and is very sensitive to murderous energy. However, what makes her feel strange is that Su Zijian in the book is a second-generation cultivator who eats and waits for death. There is no such heavy killing in hatred, it's strange. Also, if it weren't for him not following the original, she wouldn't have woken up early, but he doesn't seem like a time traveler. Is it a rebirth? How did she know that Su Zijian was a reincarnation and not a traveler? It was simple. This guy's eyes still looked foolish and poisonous. Although he was hated, in the original book, his mouth was at most a bit cheap. "I just woke up earlier and couldn't think so much." Now it seems strange that he wanted to kill her, as if he knew she would definitely die. Although he only kowtowed and scratched his skin, he said that life and death are unknown, and this statement clearly emphasizes the word death. Su Bai gave a sinister smile in Nangong Zhao's arms. "My second brother, are you really reborn? If so, that would be fun." Su Yingying, who was standing beside her, kept looking at Su Bai because she thought there was something wrong with her. However, she didn't expect to see her show such a strange and evil smile, and her whole body seemed to be struck by lightning, stunned. "Yingying! Yingying!" Uncle Su couldn't help but raise his volume a little when he saw Su Yingying cowering on the side, but this startled her, who was already frightened by Su Bai, directly. Aunt Sang beside her saw her like this, and with a hint of resentment, she gently pushed her and said, "Yingying, Uncle is calling you." Su Yingying, who had regained her senses, obediently lowered her head and spoke in a voice that seemed to be low in her throat. "Big, Uncle, do you call me?" Su Xianhua looked at his younger brother speechlessly, then at his sister-in-law who looked down on this illegitimate woman. He could only patiently say, "I remember you were already studying in school, right?" "Yes." Su Yingying's voice was as small as a mosquito's. If it weren't for everyone being cultivators, they wouldn't have heard her voice. Uncle Su knew she was timid and didn't say much, "Then come up and take a look. If you need anything, just choose one. He has already stored the spirit stone and some top-level treasures, which are currently things that everyone can use on a daily basis. I saw Su Yingying taking small steps and lowering her head to approach Uncle Su, but I didn't expect Su Zijian to rush out again at this moment. No, she can't take it. Upon hearing Su Zijian's words, Su Yingying lowered her head. No one noticed that her lips had been bitten white. Uncle Su looked at Su Zijian, who had become a demon again, speechless. Zijian, this is your sister, stop making trouble. But as long as Su Zijian is not good at Su Bai, he still feels like he has a little bit of intelligence. Uncle, Su Yingying has mixed spiritual roots and low cultivation. It's better to give all these good things to the sixth younger brother. The sixth younger brother has high talent, maybe he can soar to the sky with these things. End of this chapter. Chapter 10. White Mist. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10 White Mist. Su Yao was originally a melon-eating crowd on the side, but he didn't know how this second brother led the fire to him. Dad, second brother, these things are all from the third uncle and third aunt. Now that they have been brought back, they are also from Xiaobao's sister. It's not bad to give them to his family. Just say this directly, just give it to me. Why drag me down? I don't want to get involved in the family affairs of Uncle Heir. Nangong Xiao was still holding Su Bai, comforting her attentively, and then spoke up, Xiao Lu's will be great. Zijian, this is for your sister. No, 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 we can't give this white-eyed wolf. Su Zijian was almost shaking his head into dice. His straightforward words made Aunt Sang's face pale, and Su Yingying trembled even more. But her biological father Su Yanfeng didn't say a word, and the old god sat on the side drinking tea, waiting for the boss to call him up to choose the spiritual treasure. Yu Mengxian couldn't bear to see it anymore and walked up to her son, saying, just give it a small thing, give it to me, don't you know, you think we're so stingy. If you really don't want to give it, just grab it later. Why make such a big fuss in public? She gave her son a wink, but who knew he continued to splash without even looking at him. That's not possible. This little white-eyed wolf used to be as good as that Qingyi. Who knows if she knows what Qingyi did, even though I hate Su Xiaobao, but after all, she is the legitimate young lady of our Su family. She was actually turned green by a dirty demon servant daughter. Maybe this white-eyed wolf knows it too. She deliberately didn't say it, just wanted to see our joke. Su Zijian was already spoiled and lawless. Although his grandfather would talk about him, it was just a private conversation. His grandfather always said that the son of the Su family should be reckless. Of course, what he said recklessly cannot be fooled by Su, but he doesn't want it. As he spoke, he also glanced at Su Dashan, and Grandpa Su, who was sitting in a high position, couldn't sit still. This unworthy grandson has said many times, don't be so disrespectful in front of outsiders, but it's just going in one ear and out the other. Su Bai is also speechless. The guardians of the emotional family are all protecting themselves and liking them. Su Yingying doesn't really care, after all, in the original work, she didn't seem to do anything to harm Su Bai. However, a person who died at the beginning can still be hurt in any way. According to her inference, Su Zijian was reborn, so it is possible that he has experienced something, and these things are what Su Yingying added to him. Thinking of this, Su Bai smiled again. Su Zijian, what will happen if you offend me? Su Bai put away her smiling face, hummed and raised her head, and her small hands tightly wrapped around the big aunt's neck. Big aunt, second brother, bully your sister, and also bully me. Give it, sister, don't give it, he. Su Dashan, are you against me? Su Zijian roared angrily at Su Bai. Grandpa Su couldn't sit still and quickly stood up, saying, Su Zijian, how can I talk to Xiao Bao? Grandpa, don't worry. Anyway, you can't give this thing to Su Yingying. Even if you give it, I will take it away. Don't let me snatch it too much, I'm annoyed. You Uncle Su laughed angrily at his straightforward words and said, second, take care of your children. Big brother, Zijian has always had his own opinions. Don't give this thing to anyone who doesn't stand up. Hurry up and divide it into other things. I'll have something else to do later. Su Bai sighed helplessly in her heart. She was indeed a family, all stupid and poisonous guys. However, now it's making Uncle feel helpless. Uncle is good at everything, but he is not good at managing family affairs. Otherwise, the original work wouldn't have been dragged down by the second room. Ha! Su Bai suddenly yawned heavily, stood up from Nan Gongxiao, and walked over to the uncle, saying, Uncle, these are all for nothing, they won't give them all. As she spoke, she was lying on top of these big boxes, looking as if she wouldn't touch you. Grandpa Su immediately understood what his granddaughter meant. That's it then. Even if it's scattered, we can still argue for a while. He is not like his indecisive son who walked over directly, waved his sleeve, put everything into his space ring, and then put it on Su Bai's hand, smiling and saying, these are all for nothing, don't argue anymore. He picked up Su Bai and said, let's go, don't stay with these people, they will become foolish. Stupid, stupid. Su Bai thought she was a fool and said silly words without much fuss. Not only did she freeze, but Grandpa Su also froze. Then, seeing her stunned and surprised expression, she burst out laughing and said, ha ha ha, you've really become stupid, Grandpa. Su Bai gave her grandfather a look of anger and quickly asked Gue Man what was going on. Master, it's the white mist inside your body that's starting to emerge again, white mist. But isn't this white mist you? There's no way to get rid of it. I'm in the white mist, but this white mist seems a bit mysterious, and I can't say it. But it seems to be afraid of your blood. Why don't you take it down by bleeding some blood, but you have to take me away first, I'm also afraid of your blood. The ghost vine swayed and swayed on her little tail finger, and it was also terrifying with the blood of its master. It felt like there was a powerful force inside that could burn down all things in the world, which was very frightening. Since there is a way to suppress it, she is not in a hurry for now. Then she will slowly find a way to dispel this white mist, otherwise it will really be an untimely bomb. She can play dumb, but she can't be really stupid. Grandpa Su took Su Bai to a yard and placed her on a stone bench, gently stroking her head. My little treasure has been hurt by the fall, right? No wonder Grandpa didn't teach you a lesson, right? He said, no wonder, Grandpa is doing it for nothing. She started speaking a bit intermittently again, fortunately she could still control it. The white mist was really annoying. Grandpa Su sat beside her helplessly and said, your parents have been gone for several years. Grandpa didn't want to send your brother away back then, after all, it was your brother. But he insisted on leaving, and Grandpa couldn't stop him, so he let him go. Now that you can practice, you're not foolish. Grandpa just told you this. Do you know why Grandpa sent you to Tianling sect instead of Tianxian sect? Bye-bye, no, Ling Zhen. Grandpa Su smiled and touched Su Bai's head, saying, of course this is on one hand, and on the other hand, it's your brother in the heavenly Xuanzong. Hey, you'll know when you see him in the future. Bye-bye, remember Grandpa's words and don't meet him privately, okay? Su Bai nodded, of course she knew. Su Yi was the most loyal licking dog of the female protagonist Qingyi, and she seemed to have liked it since childhood. As for why she couldn't recognize it in the book at first sight, she seriously suspected that she recognized it, but didn't dare to expose it. After all, it's nothing to be close to siblings, right? End of this chapter.